Juliette was radiant as her wedding to Lucas approached. She had spent months choosing the perfect dress, imagining the magical moment when they would say yes to each other. But on that fateful day, as she returned home to pick up something she had forgotten, she had a strange premonition. An instinct compelled her to quietly enter her own house. And what she saw paralyzed her. At the end of the hallway she saw Lucas, her fiancé, in an intimate embrace with her friend Clara. Her wedding dress, carefully hung in the closet, was being worn by Clara, while Lucas held her in his arms. Juliette's heart stopped. The world seemed to spin more slowly as she tried to make sense of the scene before her. Words wouldn't come, only a pressure in her chest and a feeling of shock. She felt betrayed, confused, and devastated. But in the midst of the pain, a spark of determination ignited within her. She would not allow this betrayal to destroy her. With a determined step, she entered the room, looking at them with eyes filled with an intense mix of emotions. It was time to face it, the truth, no matter how painful it would be. Lucas. Her voice came out firm, even though her heart was in pieces. What's going on here? The two quickly separated, their faces pale with shock. Lucas's apologies became a blur, but Juliette could barely hear them. Her mind was spinning, trying to process the betrayal she had just witnessed. She looked at the wedding dress, now stained by the betrayal of Lucas and Clara. It was a cruel reminder of what could have been, a symbol of the love she thought she shared with Lucas. But now, everything was in ruins. Juliette turned away, determined to leave this scene of betrayal behind her. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was determined to find her own happiness, even if it meant starting over from scratch. Determined not to marry Lucas, Juliette was ready to do anything to escape this fate. She felt like her life was in complete turmoil, but one thing remained certain. She would not say yes at the altar. With tears in her eyes and a heavy heart, Juliette left behind the house where everything had fallen apart. She wandered aimlessly through the streets, trying to clear her mind amid the emotional chaos. Juliette was running down the street. Her heart was pounding wildly in her chest. She needed a refuge, a place to clear her mind amid the emotional chaos that was consuming her. That's when she noticed the little cafe, with its outdoor tables and the inviting aroma of fresh coffee wafting through the air. Without hesitation, she stepped into the cafe, leaving the bustle of the streets behind her. Her heart was still racing, but the tranquil atmosphere of the place seemed to soothe her swirling emotions. As she watched the passers-by outside, her eyes were drawn to a man on the other side of the street. He stood there alone, lost in his own thoughts. Their eyes met briefly, and Juliette felt something spark between them, an instant connection that intrigued her. It was then that, gathering all the courage she had, Juliette decided to take a step toward the man. She crossed the street and approached him with determination. "Hello, how are you?" Her voice was a little shaky, but steady. "My name is Juliette. I know this might sound crazy, but I'm willing to offer 100,000 euros for you to marry me." The man looked at her in surprise, his eyes expressing disbelief at this unexpected proposal. He seemed to think for a moment, as if weighing Juliette's unusual proposal. But at the same time, a spark of curiosity shone in his eyes. "Why not?" he replied, a smile beginning to form on his lips. Hugo, although surprised by Juliette's unexpected proposal, was intrigued. Single, with no children, he was at a point in his life where he was open to new possibilities. The idea of marrying Juliette right away sparked a glimmer of excitement in him. Lucas, Juliette's fiancé, his heart filled with rage and confusion, managed to find her in the streets. He saw Juliette talking to the stranger, Hugo, and a wave of jealousy and possessiveness swept over him. How could she get close to another man so quickly? With quick, determined steps, Lucas approached the couple, his expression hardened by suppressed anger. He tried to stop Juliette from leaving, his voice echoing, rough and deep, expressing his disapproval. "Juliette, what are you doing?" he asked, his words filled with hatred. "You can't just go out and get involved with anyone. You're impulsive and irresponsible." Juliette turned to face Lucas, her eyes filled with determination. She knew that her decision to walk away from him and follow through with her plan wouldn't be easy, but she was determined not to turn back. "Lucas, please," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotion inside her. "This is none of your business." Hugo, the stranger with whom Juliette had made a deal, showed unexpected courage in the tense situation with Lucas. As Lucas confronted Juliette with harsh words, Hugo stepped in. He positioned himself between them, standing firm and resolute. "You have no right to speak to her that way," Hugo said, his voice calm but full of authority. "She is an adult woman and she has the right to make her own choices." Lucas was momentarily taken aback by Hugo's intervention. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially by a stranger. But his anger did not subside, and he shot Hugo a furious glare. "This is none of your business," Lucas retorted, his voice full of disdain. "You don't know what you're talking about." Hugo remained unfazed, standing between Lucas and Juliette like a protective shield. He knew he was risking Lucas's anger by defending Juliette, but something inside him compelled him to act, to protect this determined woman who had entered his life so unexpectedly. Juliette watched the scene with a mix of gratitude and admiration. She hadn't expected Hugo to so clearly take her side, facing Lucas with such impressive courage. As the tension rose, Hugo remained calm and unshakable. His determination to protect Juliette was evident in every gesture, in every word he addressed to Lucas. And so, faced with Hugo's unexpected courage, Juliette felt even more confident in her decision to pursue her plan. With one last defiant look at Lucas, Juliette turned and continued on her way, at Hugo's side. She could feel Lucas's furious gaze burning into her back, but she refused to let it shake her. As she walked alongside Hugo, she felt a mix of relief and anxiety. She was taking a brave step into the unknown, leaving behind a painful past and paving the way for a new beginning. Thus, in an unexpected twist of fate, Juliette once again found herself faced with a choice that could change the course of her life forever. And so, in a surge of despair and determination, Juliette ended up marrying a complete stranger that very same day. Hugo and Juliette were quickly married at City Hall using plastic rings. It was a crazy decision, an unexpected turning point in her life, but she felt an immense sense of relief as she left behind the weight of her ruined marriage with Lucas. As she walked hand in hand with her new husband, she couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope ignite within her. Who knew what the future held for her now that she had taken control of her own life? Juliette secretly hoped that her marriage to Lucas would be annulled because of her new marriage to Hugo. As she struggled to reconcile her conflicting emotions, a new concern arose. Her parents, who had planned the wedding with Lucas so enthusiastically, were devastated to learn of her decision to marry Hugo. They felt betrayed and disappointed, and their reactions were even more painful than Juliette had imagined. As she faced the pressure from her parents and uncertainty about her financial future, Juliette wondered if she would be able to find a solution to this impasse. She knew she was about to make one of the most difficult decisions of her life, a choice that could change the course of her destiny forever. Juliette, faced with the pressure from her parents and uncertainty about her financial future, made a difficult but courageous decision. She decided to leave her parents' house, even though she wasn't sure how she would manage on her own. It was a decision that weighed on her heart, but Juliette knew she had to follow her own path, even if it meant facing unknown challenges. As she packed her things and prepared to leave, a feeling of freedom mixed with anxiety washed over her. She was leaving behind the safety of her family home. Hugo, understanding Juliette's difficult situation, decided to reach out and help her. He saw beyond the immediate difficulties and recognized the courage and determination she was showing. So, without hesitation, he offered Juliette a place to stay at his home. With a grateful heart, Juliette accepted Hugo's generous offer. She felt a mix of relief and gratitude, knowing she would not be alone on her journey. Hugo opened the doors of his home and his heart to her, offering comfort, safety, and support in her time of need. Hugo showed Juliette her new room, a warm and comforting space where she could rest and recharge. He wanted her to feel at home, giving her all the support and comfort she needed. As the days went by, Juliette and Hugo shared stories, laughter, and moments of tenderness. A special connection began to form between them, a deep friendship that transcended the circumstances that had brought them together. At Hugo's, Juliette found not only a temporary shelter, but also a source of hope and renewal. Juliette began to feel a growing affection for Hugo as they spent more time together. She started to notice not only his kindness and charm, but also the depth of his character and the sincerity of his intentions. Every act of kindness and every comforting word from Hugo touched her heart in a special way, creating a bond she could not ignore. As Hugo welcomed her into his home and his life, he also made sure to assure her that he would be by her side, taking care of her and their situation. He expressed his commitment to facing any challenges together, promising her unconditional support. Lucas, inconsolable and consumed by anger at having been replaced by a stranger, could not accept Juliette's decision. He became increasingly obsessed with the idea of winning her back, believing that she would return to him if only he gave her another chance. On a sudden impulse, he decided to look for Juliette in the street where he knew she usually passed by, hoping to find her alone. One afternoon, as Juliette was walking quietly in the park, lost in her thoughts, she was surprised by Lucas. He appeared suddenly, his face twisted with frustration and barely contained anger. "Juliette, we need to talk," said Lucas, his voice firm and tense. "You can't just leave me like this. I deserve a chance to explain." Juliette felt her heart start to race, a mix of fear and determination. She knew she couldn't allow Lucas to manipulate her again. Taking a deep breath, she stayed calm and replied, "Lucas, we've already talked about this. I've made my choice and I'm happy with Hugo. Insisting won't change anything." Juliette's refusal only fueled Lucas's anger. He took another step forward, adopting a threatening posture. "You don't understand, Juliette. He's a stranger. You're going to throw everything away for someone you barely know." Before Juliette could answer, Hugo appeared, having noticed the situation from afar. He quickly approached, positioning himself between Juliette and Lucas. His expression was serious and protective. "That's enough," said Hugo, his voice firm and controlled. "Juliette has already made her decision, and you need to respect it. I won't allow you to intimidate her." Lucas, furious at Hugo's intervention, tried to approach, but Hugo stood his ground, his eyes locked on Lucas's. "She is my wife now," Hugo continued, "and you have to respect that. Any attempt to intimidate or harass her will not be tolerated." Juliette felt a wave of relief and gratitude as she saw Hugo defend her with such courage. She knew she had found someone who truly loved her and was ready to protect her at any cost. Lucas, seeing that his attempt to win Juliette back was failing and that he was facing a determined opponent, finally stepped back. His face still showed frustration, but he knew he couldn't force Juliette to come back to him. "This isn't over yet," murmured Lucas before walking away, leaving Juliette and Hugo alone. When Lucas disappeared from their sight, Hugo turned to Juliette, gently holding her hands. "Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes filled with concern. Juliette replied, feeling safe and loved. "Yes, I'm okay. Thank you, Hugo, for always being by my side." Hugo smiled, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "Always, Juliette, always." At that moment, Juliette felt more certain than ever about her choice. Over time, Juliette and Hugo began to feel a genuine affection and tenderness for each other. Their relationship, which had initially been based on unlikely circumstances, began to transform into something deeper and more meaningful. Juliette admired the way Hugo was always there, offering support and understanding without expecting anything in return. His kindness and patience were like a balm for the wounds of her heart. As for Hugo, he found in Juliette a companion who brightened his days. He was enchanted by her determination and resilience, seeing in her an inner strength that inspired him. Juliette's laughter was music to his ears, and their deep conversations, which stretched late into the night, were moments he was learning to cherish immensely. The affection they felt for each other began to grow in a natural and organic way, evolving into something stronger and more tangible. They realized that it was not just a matter of convenience or mutual support. Something deeper was developing. One night, as they were sitting on the couch watching a movie and laughing together, Hugo looked at Juliette and realized how much she meant to him. He felt a wave of emotion, something he knew he could no longer ignore. "Juliette," he said softly, turning to her, "I think I'm falling in love with you." Juliette, surprised but moved, felt her heart race. She realized she felt the same way. "Hugo, I'm falling in love with you too," she replied, her voice full of sincerity. At that moment, they realized that what they felt was love. It wasn't something planned or expected, but it had grown between them, nurtured by kindness, respect, and mutual support. One beautiful day, Hugo woke up early, a mysterious smile on his lips. He had been planning something special for Juliette for weeks, and today was finally the day to make his surprise happen. Surprise. He wanted to show Juliette how much she meant to him, and to replace the plastic ring he had used during their wedding, improvised with something that would better represent their love and commitment. When Juliette woke up, she smelled the delicious aroma coming from the kitchen and followed the scent, curious. Upon entering, she found Hugo smiling with the table impeccably set. "Good morning, my love," he said, pulling out a chair for her to sit. "Good morning, Hugo," replied Juliette, delighted and surprised. "What is all this?" "Today is a special day," said Hugo mysteriously as he served breakfast. After coffee, Hugo took Juliette to the living room, where a small blue velvet box was waiting on the table. He knelt before her, holding the box in his hands. "Juliette," began Hugo, looking into her eyes tenderly. "When we got married, it was spontaneous, but full of meaning and emotion. This plastic ring symbolized our commitment in a moment of uncertainty but also of hope. Today I want to give you something that represents what our love has become, strong, true, and eternal." He opened the box, revealing a sparkling diamond ring. Juliette brought her hands to her mouth, surprised and moved. "Hugo, it's beautiful," she murmured, her eyes brimming with tears. Hugo smiled and took her hand, gently slipping the ring onto her finger. "What really matters, Juliette, is not the ring itself but what it represents. It's a symbol of my love for you, which grows every day. I want to spend the rest of my life by your side, making you happy and building a life together." Juliette felt a wave of love and gratitude flood her heart. She hugged Hugo tightly, feeling more connected to him than ever before. "I love you, Hugo," she said, moved. "Thank you for everything. This gesture means more than words can express." He held her close, feeling the warmth and depth of the love they shared. The diamond ring sparkled on her hand, but the true glow was in their hearts, united by a love that had overcome adversity and grown stronger with time.